So this week on Spray River Homestead, one of the things we're doing is a parade and a 4-H event. So I know in a couple episodes we've talked about rabbits and that, and Nikki is huge into the rabbits. So we have 3 types of rabbits on the farm. They're either show, sell, or stew. So she is also a leader of a 4-H group called the Rural Klamath Rabbit Group. So today we're out in Bonanza, Oregon, and they have an annual, kind of like a little festival. They have a car show, they have a craft sale and all that, and a parade. So the rabbit group today is doing the parade, which I'll show you a little bit of when they go by, because I'm sitting here. And then they're going to do sales of crafts and that to make money for the group itself so they can go to fair and some other things. So once they go by in the parade, I'll get some footage walking around of everything else, and then we'll see where we go.
Yeah, guys, we're really crowded. Yeah, this is where we're like. So our fundraiser for 4-H went okay yesterday. We sold quite a few of our shirts. Kids sold all of their keychains that they made, a couple of their little pinecone animals. We were trying to raise money for new club shirts since we're a first-year club for a fair, which is in 2.5, 3 weeks. Not sure if we quite made it. We technically made it between that and donations, but we also had a large overhead as the club had made a tie-dye. So we're going to sit down Wednesday at our meeting and figure out if we actually made enough money or still are a little short. So for sure, we'll figure something else out. Maybe see if parents want to donate and kind of go from there. Well, I've been hand watering so far this year, and it's been going really well. The biggest thing is right now we're in the 90s and even heading into 100 this week, and I can't keep up. It's you can probably see if Kaden turned and looks at the potatoes. I put drip systems on the potatoes this last 2 weeks, and the potato beds look great. Unfortunately, I still am having trouble keeping up with the squash, the peppers, and all the tomatoes because of the demand. So, I mean, we're late July, so we're only going to use the stand sprinklers for about a month or so, but I'm going to go ahead and set them up. That way I can turn them on for a couple hours each day, get the whole garden. I'm not tied up and standing out here in 90-degree heat, and hopefully that's going to catch up and keep everything going, because it's a lot to try and hand water a garden this big. Even though I'm not using every bed this year, it's still been a lot to try and keep up with. Okay, so here is the greenhouse, the dome, and there's a lot of wasps and bees flying around, which I am allergic to. So these are my eggplants. There are 4, and then I've got a tomato in the middle. This is the first year I've ever gotten an eggplant to grow here. Usually I grow the traditional Black Beauty, which I grew in Mississippi and absolutely loved them. Tried and tried here and could not get them to grow big enough to get actual production. So a lady at the garden center this year handed me a 4-pack of these narrow, let's see what the tags say they are. They are an early narrow Japanese long eggplant, which I did grow years ago in Mississippi, but it was a bigger version. It was a lighter color eggplant, and this lady told me at the garden center that's what I needed to grow here, that they grew very prolifically. They're very narrow. They're, about that big around. And I actually picked my very first eggplant ever here the other day. You can kind of see, since Kana was down panning through them, these things are loaded. I'm probably going to have more eggplant than I even really want. So I'll probably be freezing them. They're not going to make a big eggplant steak, but we can make lasagna and different stuff with them. So those are going really well. You can see my tomato plants are doing just incredibly awesome. Pretty much everything in here, with the exception of a few replants, have tomatoes on them. The cherry tomato, we actually already got our first couple off of it. She's kind of stringy looking, but that seems to be, at least for me, normal with the Sweet Wind Millions. My sweet potato plant is doing really well. I've tried for years to grow those here. I tried one this year just to see, and we might just have the secret of it. So we are talking about doing another dome for next year, and I'll have to look into that this fall about getting another kit from the great people over at Zip Tie Domes.
One of the things we've never really mentioned yet is how our water system is set up. So about 500 feet away from the house is the well, and the well was pretty much almost the first thing to go in here with the house, 15 years ago when it was first a vacation house. So since then we've run all underground plumbing from the well down to the cistern, from the cistern back out. And so this is one of the things that came out. When we designed everything, put the garden in, and we knew we were going to put things over here, we ran plumbing underground, which is about 30 to 36 inches below the freeze level, or the frost line in the ground at the winter. So this is something we've done here. And so we have well heads, or kind of like sprinklers basically, or whatever, risers coming out of the ground. So we've run tubing all the way out. This is one by the dome, so if I pan around, there's the dome we were just in. And so this is a riser coming up out of the ground that we put in. So we will in the future talk about setting up your water system for your homestead and kind of how to plan that if you don't have it already, or if you want to expand. So if you have questions in the meantime, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll make one up.
I always do. I never get good coverage over here. I'm not sure how to fix that. I've tried in years past. Well, as Kaden mentioned last week, we are overrun with turkeys. You know, these guys are only 6-8 weeks old. Obviously, I've got some toms in there because some of them are already starting to strut. Dog must be coming since they quit. So we've got a variety of stuff in there. Most of these guys will probably, if they don't sell soon, get wintered, sold as breeding pairs, and then eaten. Whoever doesn't get sold as breeding pairs either later this fall or early in the spring. So this week I sat down and I made a list of keepers and goers. We've got quite a few goats, so we got to decide who's going to stay and who's going to go. So on this side of the feeder, I think is what Payne's looking at. This first brown and white one, she's going to stay. That's Mabel, Gertrude, Carmela. Those three girls are going to stay as our Nigerian program because they are all purebred Nigerians. This one next to her, Gemma, is Carmela's baby from 3 years ago, and our very first set of triplets was her and Clarabelle down here on the end. I've made the decision that we're going to go ahead and part with those girls. Not really what we're looking for. You can kind of see the heavy boar goat influence in them, which we're just not going to do. And then you can see this year's Moose, otherwise known as Walter, the black one. We are going to keep him as a future herd buck alongside his dad, Troy, who we will use this year. Walter will be used next year. And then his half-sister down here, the pretty little caramel brown one with the dark stripe, that is Miss Petunia. She is also going to stay, since she is 3/4 Nigerian, she's 13/16 Nubian. So she's going to be staying. I think Clara and Gemma are the only ones other than Buttercup, who I have no idea where she is the only other adult goat that we're going to go ahead and part with. And then pretty much all of this year's babies are going to go. Like I said, Walter and Petunia are going to stay. We're going to keep the 1 3/4 Nigerian buck who is out because he can still get out through the fence. He's out with his sister grazing in outside the field, which is not where they're supposed to be. We're going to keep Oreo. And then we're going to keep one of Melon's little brown babies who are also outside grazing in the wilderness because they can fit through the cattle panels. Okay, and while we were making our list, never mind Jasper's terrible toes. He fights us pretty bad, so he needs to have those done. While we were making our list, we have decided that Mr. Obnoxious I'm Shedding and his brother Rascal, these guys are not going to be used anymore. But because they are our first bucks, we are going to go ahead and keep them, so they'll be pets. I know, they don't like that. But these guys are half boar goat, and that's not really where we're going, so we're going to go ahead and just keep them here, build a new pasture for them, let them live out their days. So these two horrifically shedding monsters, everybody's shedding right now. We've had a weird season. This is Pavlov. He is our buck that we're using for our Nigerians. He's only half Nigerian, but he is the size of a Nigerian. He's pretty small. And then that is Freud. He is the daddy of our newbie kits from kids from this year. You can see he's shedding pretty bad too. Not a huge buck. He was kind of a runt out of a first-time mom. But as you could see in the other barn, he's throwing some pretty big kids. So, real nice, gentle guy. In fact, he kind of bows down to the little Nigerian monster there beside him. So, those two are going to stay, and those will be our breeding bucks for this year.
All right, so that's kind of what's going on Sprague Homestead in the last week. And in this week, it's supposed to be forecasted for hundreds, like low hundreds, 100, 104, 5, somewhere in there, which is really hot. So we are going to move our chicken tractors into the shade, do some tarps on our water birds and that, and just get ready to survive through the next 7 to 10 days of extreme heat. And then suddenly it goes back down to the 90s. So batten down the hatches, get ready for the heat, and we will see you next week.